Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. I am Rob, and today we're going to talk about one of the things that I think is very important when you're a home cook, and being efficient at the stove. You know, when you're cooking, being able to have things that you really need accessible at the ready for you. And we're going to talk about the utensil bucket, or the utensil holder, whatever you want to call it. I call it a bucket. Mine's grown from, this big to, as you can see right here, this big now. And what I wanted to talk to you about is mine has gotten really full, and I thought, man, I need to declutter it a little bit. But I thought part of that process could be kind of going through and talking about what I like to have in there and what I use on a regular basis in the bucket that I'm reaching for all the time. And for the comments down below, I'd love to know, is there something that's not in my bucket that you have in your utensil bucket that I might be using and needs to be in my bucket? It's just not. So if you guys make a comment down below, I'd love to know what you think should be in my bucket as we go through and kind of talk about what I'm going to put in here. Now, everything you see on the counter is what has been in my bucket for the longest time. And quite honestly, it's fine. It's just, as I said a minute ago, this bucket went from this big to what it is now because I kept growing with utensils. And I finally got to a point where I said, I think I need to declutter. I really need to kind of prioritize and figure out exactly what I need in this bucket, and kind of, if I can take a few things out to make it a little easier to get things in and out of the bucket, I'm going to do that. And so that's kind of what we're going to do today, is declutter my bucket, but at the same time, talk about what I like having in there, what I think you may want to have in your bucket as you cook. So the first thing we're going to talk about, I'm going to go over here to my spatulas. And as you can see here, I've got 6 spatulas that have been in my bucket. And quite honestly, that's not probably too many, it's too many. I don't need 6 spatulas. What I will tell you is I have a couple favorites. You got to have a fish spatula always at the ready. And this is a spatula, my wife and I have had this one for 25 years since we've been married, and it just works really well. So I'm gonna keep those 2 in for sure. But I've got 4 more, and I know I don't need 4 more in my bucket. There are on occasion breakfast and things like that where I might need 2, hard plastic or rubber type spatulas. So I think I'll add 1 more, and it's just trying to figure out kind of what's my favorite one. Because I like this shape and size, I'm going to kind of go with a similar one and do another one of those. And this frees up, 3 spatulas getting out, helping me declutter a little bit. The next thing I'm going to talk to you all about that I like to have in my bucket, my utensil bucket, are whisks. You use these for so many things. You do have smaller ones that you might use in the kitchen. I do. I keep them in a drawer right by the stove so I can reach those as well. And I'd say that's another good point. Your utensils that you use on a regular basis on top of the counter in a bucket like this, and then a drawer near the stove that you can keep other things that you use on a regular basis that maybe are too small to fit in here, or just don't need to. You don't use them as much, but you still use them in a drawer next to the stove. But whisks, very important. Both of these are going to stay in my bucket. I prefer this one, the metal one. Love it, using it on all my cast irons, mixing bowls, things like that. I do have the coated one that I do keep as well, because there are sometimes I'm cooking something in a non-stick pot or skillet, and it needs to be whisked, and I don't want to take that non-stick off, so I do use this type of whisk. Not my favorite, but definitely serves a purpose. So both of those going in. The next thing I'm going to show you on my counter is my meat masher. I don't know, potato masher, whatever you call this thing. I use it primarily for meat. I guess I do use it for potatoes too, but a lot of times for my mashed potatoes, I'll use a ricer. But I use this a lot if I'm doing biscuits and gravy or making some type of sauce, Italian meat sauce or something like that. Breaking down meat and things, I use this. I will tell you, I just ordered, and it should be here today. I'm sure you guys have seen, kind of like on a spoon, but it's got these 4 forks that go around that everybody on the internet's talking about as a great kind of meat smasher. I don't even call it a smasher, something that breaks up the meat. So I'm looking forward to getting that. It will probably replace this when I get that in, and I use it a time or two and make sure I do like it, but everything I'm seeing says it's going to work great. But something to break up your meat when you cook all the time, I'm going to keep that in there for sure. And then we're going to move to spatulas. I have have several spatulas in here, and I will tell you that I do use multiple spoon-type spatulas for multiple dishes on a regular basis. These are the three spoon-type spatulas that I have, and quite honestly, it's not too many. I find on a regular basis I'm grabbing more than one for cooking, in the kitchen, especially dinners and things like that. So I'm going to keep all three of those in there for sure. This is a spatula, this kind of, I don't know exactly what the name is for this type of spatula. It's more of a spreading kind of spatula. I don't use these as often. I really don't use them at all, but I feel like I should have one in there. And to be honest with you, this one's getting old. I think, yeah, it just comes kind of right off. It's done that a couple times. I'm going to go ahead and declutter by getting that one out. And this one I really like. It still has some flexibility to it, but it's very solid. And I've used it a couple times where I'm really wanting to scrape a little bit, and this does a really good job. So this one will stay in the utensil bucket for sure. The next item we're going to talk about in the utensil bucket is an item that, some people might question whether it needs to be in there or not. Especially this time of year when we get into fall and winter and a lot of soups and a lot of stews and things like that are being made. To me, it's important to have it in there. I probably don't use it as often as, I don't use it a ton, but it's nice to have it accessible when I do need it. So I would say it's not essential, but it is nice to have it at the ready when you need it. For pasta water, for soups, it's wintertime for soups and stews. That's the ladle, and I actually have two of these. And I'll tell you, we use these a ton. Love to cook at home, but there are times when we order Chinese, and when you order Chinese, you got to get that hot and sour soup or an egg drop soup. Comes in a big container. These pop out, all the time for that. But like I said, stews, soups, some kind of pasta. If you're making a sauce and you need to get out some of that pasta water with the starch to thicken up the sauce, these are great. I think these are important to have in your utensil bucket, so those go in for me. And again, I said, if you don't think you have room, it's not essential, but if you do have room, I think it's an important piece that can be added in there. So I was just looking down at my counter and noticed I had another spatula. You saw me talking about those. This one, declutter as well. Like I said, I think this is the only one I'm going to need in the bucket for that type of use. The next item I'm going to go to that I think is essential to having in the utensil bucket are your spiders. I think, one is fine. I do like having two. One is perfectly fine. I do have a silicone one that I use a lot. Obviously, anything fried, I'm going to use the metal one. If you're frying, fish or crawfish or shrimp or whatever it might be, chicken, these are great. But having two of them works for me. I use these for different applications, and this one only for frying. So I think spiders, very, very important to have at the ready in your utensil bucket. Okay, I'm a big fan, the next item we're going to go to, I'm a big fan of your wooden spatulas. And I've got 5 here, and this was actually just a kit that I ordered off of Amazon, and I'll put the link down below if you guys are interested. But different sizes depending on what I'm using it for, the type of pot, the size of the pot, things like that. All 4 of these, along with kind of a wooden spoon. And what I think is great about the wooden ones are that it works on any type of pot that you're using, whether it's stainless steel, whether it's a non-stick or a cast iron or a carbon steel, anything like that. These are not going to hurt, or they do get a little bit worn and rubbed down, but it's not a bad thing. It's great for getting that fond off on the bottom when you're trying to deglaze a pan and things like that. So definitely having multiple of these, because I will tell you, as I'm cooking, inevitably, every meal I'm cooking, I'm using more than one of these for different things that I have going on in the kitchen. So all 5 of these, all 4 of my spatulas and the wooden spoon, definitely are essential for being in the utensil bucket. All right, the next category is just some big spoons, right? You need them for sauces, you need them for everything. I think having a slotted spoon and then just a large spoon are important to have in your utensil bucket. So both of these will be going back in, and as you can tell, this is the only decluttering I've done so far, but I will say this is going to make a difference, so I'm not terribly disappointed. And as I'm looking on what's left on my counter, I don't see a whole lot more that I want to get rid of, although the next item is something that I've decided I don't really need in here. This is a icing spreader. I think I don't know what the official name is, but it's to spread icing as you make a cake or do something. You could probably use it for other things. I do. But I really don't use this that much. Putting this in the drawer next to the stove, I think will work just fine. Gets it out of here, frees up a little bit of room. So this is going to be part of my declutter and taking that out of my utensil bucket. In the spoon category, this is my pasta spoon. Some people may say you could just use tongs. I'm really a fan of the pasta spoon. I think being able to get in there and really work the pasta, and I'm really a fan of this. I really like how it works in a big pot with pasta, especially like a linguine or a spaghetti or something like that, being able to break it up. You know, if it's just like an elbow pasta or from fusilli or something like that, obviously a big spoon will work just fine. But for any kind of long pasta, I really like this tool. And, you know, Italian food, my favorite. We cook it a lot, especially going into winter and fall. So pastas will be around. This needs to be in my bucket and easily accessible, easily found. So that's going in there as well. So the last item we're going to talk about, which I think is probably the most essential item to have in your utensil bucket, are the tongs. And I would say most people who cook at home have at least 1 to 2 sets of these. I'm going to say you need more. I go through these like crazy as I'm cooking meals and doing things, and what I don't want to do is stop and have to wash and then dry and try to get it ready again. Again, being efficient with my time just screws up everything I'm doing when I'm cooking. Not necessarily screws up, but it slows it down, and I don't like that. So I would rather wash 4 of these later than have to stop and do it as I'm cooking and prepping and doing things in the kitchen, getting ready for a meal. I've got, what do I got here? 6 of these. And can I get, you know, down to 4 or 3? Probably, but I'm not going to. I really like having these. Like I said, I go through them like crazy. I will tell you that I have, you know, 3 that are smaller, and then I have, you know, 3 that are the longer tongs. And I think that's a good point to make, probably, is to talk about having some shorter tongs that you can use for certain things, and then the longer tongs that you might use for something else. But having all 6 of these in here are absolutely something that is essential to me. And I think if you're going to have a utensil bucket at your house, you should have multiple of these. I won't tell you how many, but multiple, at least 2. And you can decide after that how many more you want. But that's my take on the utensil bucket. And, you know, doing this video talking about what's in mine kind of helped me kind of declutter a little bit, made a little bit of room, but this is what mine will look like. And it's really needs to be on the counter, and I'll show you back here. This is my my stove where I cook, and my bucket. My bucket sits right there, so it's ready to go whenever I'm cooking. All right, hope that was helpful for you. Again, down in the comments, let me know if there's any utensils I don't have in my bucket that you think would be essential for a utensil bucket. Look forward to reading those and getting some good ideas of what I can add. My wife will appreciate that too. We'll see you guys on the next one. Take care.